I've got a bit of a difficult question to ask. Is if you were to send a pin location of where your heart or your soul or your spirit is, where would that location be? Guessing my question is that where you at? How are you feeling? Do you feel like life's troubles have engulfed you and you are just barely keeping your head above water? Psalm 69 says, I'm up to my neck in waters. Save me, O God. And do you feel like that? Do you feel like maybe life's troubles have overtaken you? Do you feel like, marriage problems, finances, family problems, relationship strains have engulfed you and have taken hold of your mind and kept you imprisoned? And do you feel like you're in so much pain at the moment that you can hardly describe? And so when somebody says, how can we help? Send us a pin location of where your soul, your heart, or your spirit might be, so that we might be able to send some type of help or salvation to you. If you do find yourself in this situation, there's a psalm which describes a psalmist sending a pin location of where they were at, and it's Psalm 61. It says, hear my cry, O God, from the ends of the earth I call out to you. I call as my heart grows faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. See over here it says, hear my cry, O God. Listen to my prayer. And that speaks of, we hardly cry out for anything unless if we're in deep pain and it's urgent and we need help immediately. And so this is where the psalmist finds himself, says, hear my cry, O God. I am in deep pain and I need help urgently. And on top of that, says, I call as my heart grows faint. This is not the voice going faint from the screaming out and the calling out. It's my heart is growing faint, meaning that I'm starting to lose hope. And there's a couple of things which we can take from this verse which are really helpful. Point one is this, is that God is always available for us to call out to and cry out to. God is always available for us to cry out to, always. In fact, in another psalm, it says that he's an ever-present help in times of trouble. God is always there for us to call out to and for us to pray. And he hears our prayers. And we'll see that a bit later on because there's a bit of a spoiler alert in how the story ends. But God does hear our prayers and he does listen when we call out. And even though we're losing hope and even though our heart is growing faint, God is able to hear and he's able to action on our behalf. And the second and last point has got two sub-points to it, is that it says over here, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. Right? And it's quite simply this, is that one is that there's a rock, and two is that we can be led to this rock. So let me explain the first one, is that there is a rock in this picture, depiction of where you're at in terms of your soul and where your heart is at, speaks of stability. It speaks of, we find ourselves in troubled waters and now we're on this rock. And another thing is that this rock is described as being higher than I. It's a different viewpoint to what I have when the problems are up to my neck and all I can see is my situation and my troubles. It's a different viewpoint. So there's stability, there's a sense of a different viewpoint of where we're at. And I believe that this rock is Jesus, the cornerstone that the builders rejected. And Jesus is the rock that we led to. Jesus is the rock that we stand upon, and he provides stability for us. And even though there's a storm raging around us, and even though there's these troubles which we're facing, Jesus knows, and he comes to us and he tells us that we're not facing them alone. And secondly, he provides stability. He's the rock that provides stability. He's the anchor for the soul, holding promises not only in this life but in the next life as well. So there's a hope that goes beyond the grave. There's a hope that goes into eternity. And that provides immense amounts of stability where we find ourselves. And the last point is this, is that we can be led to this rock. Is that we don't have to do it on our own strength. We don't have to muster up some strength within to try and get to where we need to get to. We can call out to God. We can ask him to lead us to the rock that is higher than I. Different viewpoints, stability for our souls. And not only that, He will lead us there. He will take us there. He will pour out His Spirit, and His Spirit will reveal Jesus to us in that situation, and we'll be led to a place of stability, peace, and understanding beyond what we can actually see. And that is powerful, because that speaks of nothing of the situation changing, but there's stability, there's peace, and there's understanding beyond what we can see. And remember when I spoke about that spoiler alert? Psalm 62. Remember we just read Psalm 61. This is Psalm 62. This is how it ends. Truly my soul finds rest in God. My salvation comes from Him. Truly He is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I'll never be shaken. Be blessed. Amen.